you doing?
Doing well.
Fantastic.
How are you? So typical of me to talk about myself. I'm sorry. I hope. Did you ever make it out of that town where nothing had no secret? The both of us are running out of time. So how
Give me a moment, everybody. I'm just trying to make sure that we have the Facebook and the YouTube ready. I'm waiting on two other candidates. If they're not here at 7, that's just too bad. We're going to go with what we got. Brother BP, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Let me do this. Ready to start. I'm starting webinar. Okay. Good evening, Brother BB.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Davis, and I have the honor of serving the men of the Phi Kappa Kappa chapter of Omega Psi Phi fraternity as vice bosslers. We'd like to welcome you to our third Meet the Candidates Forum, where we will hear the visions and platforms from the candidates of District 4 of the city of South Fulton. As the 501c7 organization, we cannot endorse any candidate. What we aim to do is bring the candidates together so that the constituents of District 4 can ask questions and become familiar with each candidate and make an informed decision on voting day. So without any further delay, let us hear from our candidates. Thank you.
Okay, give me one moment. All right, so good evening, everyone. And as Brother BB mentioned, this is our third edition of our Meet the Candidates Forum. So we have two of our candidates for South Fulton District 4. And at this time, I'm allowed each one of them an opportunity to introduce themselves in any way that they want to, and then we will start questions. I will be monitoring the Facebook Live and the YouTube Live and any comments from anybody that's watching, and we'll answer questions. We'll go with you first, Ms. Fitcher. Ms. Fitcher?
Yes, are we ready?
Yes.
No video today?
No, we're good. We're good. You're introducing yourself and you're first.
Got it, okay. First, I want to thank the Phi Kappa Kappa chapter of Omega Psi Phi for hosting this
I'm
event.
sorry, you may want to put your candidates on your,
Yes, that's what I was saying. I can do it on my side, but it says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
I'm sorry. Try now. I'm sorry.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, first, again, I want to thank the Phi Kappa Kappa chapter of Omega Psi Phi for hosting this event. I appreciate your efforts to help the voters of District 4 make an informed decision. I also want to thank everyone who thought it worthy of their time to attend tonight. And I'll start with just a little bit about my career. I am a product of public schools. I graduated from Shaw High School in East Cleveland, Ohio, and that city may sound familiar to some of you because in the late 80s and early 90s, particularly economic development people, because in the late 80s, early 90s, my city gained national attention as the poorest suburb in all of America. Despite that, I got an excellent education in East Cleveland. I ranked in the top 10 of my graduating class, and I went on to study at Cornell University. While at Cornell, I became a proud member of the Mu Upsilon chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And today, I proudly serve with the Tau Epsilon Omega chapter here in South Fulton County. After Cornell, I began my career as a management trainee in finance at General Electric. I left there to earn my master's at Darden Graduate School of Business, which is a part of UVA. Then I spent 20 more years in corporate America in the areas of financial management, vendor management, and process management across multiple industries, manufacturing, retail, and service industries. I have traveled the globe to help teams and organizations transform in order to achieve higher levels of performance. Today, I am proudest of two things. I am debt-free and I have a consulting firm. I help executives all over this globe figure out what they want and how to get it. I'm in this race because District 4 has been neglected for years. Residents want more, and I can deliver it. Thank you.
Our next candidate, want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Good evening, everybody. Just want to thank you, brothers of the Phi Kappa Kappa, for hosting this educational forum so that the residents of District of the City of South Fulton can see the people who have stepped forward to come forward and put their name on the ballot to be the next city council person. A little bit about myself. You might hear from my awesome accent that I'm not originally a native speaker or an American. I'm an adopted son of this country that I'm very proud of. And I have lived here in the City Grove community for going on 16 years. A little bit about my growing up. I grew up where, discipline was still important, where your neighbors look after each other, and where we raise our children via community. Everyone looked after the community to make sure that things and everyone were okay. No one went to sleep hungry if we could do without doing that. I went to public school. I even went to college for public school. I went to one of the top 10 business schools in the country, Baruch College in the city of New York, right? And I graduated with honors, made the dean's list a few times. I've gone on to gain professional certification in market research, and I've worked between the private sector and the public sector in my career. I've gone back and forth as a social policy or a market researcher. So I have experience both in the private sector and on the government side, to which I know would be very valuable to the city of South Fulton and to District 4 in particular. I was one of the founders of the People's Campaign. That is the final group that came into being to run the referendum for the incorporation of the city of South Fulton. I worked with our elected officials trying to push that vote through the State House. And I promised then that if our Senator, Donzella James, and Roger Bruce and the others would get that bill from under the dome, I would do everything that I can to make sure the citizens of this great area vote yes to incorporate the city of South Fulton. First time around, because of my involvement, there were many folks who asked me to run for city council, but it wasn't professionally and personally, it wasn't just the right time. I want to help the city more. And I'm not just wanting to get in office to help now. I have been helping. So even at times where things have fallen short in District 4, I've been the one out here who have picked things up, been doing food giveaways during this pandemic, been doing giveaway of masks to the community, been doing free book bag giveaways, been doing community cleanup. So I'm running for city council, yes, because I want to help look after this community more. And I think the way that I can do that is to get the power of the government behind me. And because of my long history within the cityhood movement, I know what we voted for. I know what we've been trying to create here. And I want to make sure that vision becomes a reality for us. So again, once again, thank you guys for hosting us this evening.
All right, thank you. Let me just do a little, I guess we want to call it house cleaning, that there are 6 candidates in this race that we reached out to all 6. There were 2 other candidates, and I don't know what happened. I mean, this is a webinar. It's not set up like a regular Zoom. And I sent each candidate a participant link. And unlike the regular Zoom, you would have to use that participant link to join this meeting. So I do notice that they are I see them as participants, but as participants, they're not allowed to say or speak or anything. So I would ask that those two candidates that you go back and check the email that you received and uh, click that link. So that's where we are with that. And two of the candidates, we did not hear from them. And I know one was the incumbent. So I will, for those who are participating either on the webinar or those who are participating on Facebook or YouTube Live, if you have any questions, just place those questions and I will answer those questions. So until we get those questions, let me give you the first question. So this is what I hear around South Fulton. This is what I hear around District 4 in the last 4 years. Why can't South Fulton City Council people work together? Why does it always seem like there's issues? Why does it seem like there's a divided council? And that's what I hear a lot. And I would assume that both of y'all hear that a whole lot. That why have you had so many city managers? Why have you had so many police chiefs, fire chiefs, all within a 4-year time span? So I'm asking each candidate, what do you bring to the table that's going to allow you to have a working relationship to those other candidates and those who are already in office? And I will go with you first, Mr. Sebastian. You go first.
Thank you for that question, Willie. Well, I'm not going to be here pointing fingers. I'll just say that I have a history of working and collaborating with folks. I have a history of getting things done, and I have a history of if there's a problem, bringing folks to the table, no matter how difficult the conversation is, laying out the conversation, laying out the issue, and getting people to work together. Yes, we have been off to a little bit of a rough start, but it's part of the growing pains, I believe. And yes, you may have had some incidents that we've seen and they've looked very bad publicly. But you know what? I'm not inside the government, and I don't know all of the things that have gone into some of those issues. But one thing that I can say is that I have a history of building teams together. I have a history of executing projects in the market and social policy research. And it takes collaboration. It takes bringing people together and sitting down and working issues out. And I hope to bring those skills to the table. I remember I had a boss years ago. I'm about to release her endorsement, actually. And she said to me, Jesse, you just have this way of having the most difficult conversations. And at the end of the day, you're the one that says, okay, where are we going for lunch now? Because it's about the problems. It's never about the personalities, never about the people. It's about the people's business. And once you keep your eyes fixed on the people's business, I think you're able to go and you're able to work with whomever is willing to come to the table and work issues out.
Okay, Ms. Fisher. Same question.
Thank you. Let me first say that I have successfully worked with at least 3 of the current council people on projects within and around this community. And so I already have effective working relationships with the majority of our council members. Let me also say that as an executive coach, which is what I do today, my job is to help people figure out what the barriers are to their own success, to their own progress, to their own abilities to collaborate and work with others, help them figure out those barriers, help them remove those barriers, and get back focused on whatever the goal is. I have worked successfully as a facilitator across multiple industries. I am PMP certified. I do team building workshops. I am certified in all sorts of conflict management tools and assessments. I actually, in that first year of existence, I offered to do a few workshops for the city as well. And so I have 30 years of experience in this space. I've executed successfully all across the globe with people from different backgrounds, different genders, different persuasions, and I've done so successfully. I want to bring that experience to our city and do so here as well.
Okay, well, let me ask you one of the first questions we have, which probably a question that both of you get, and I'll let you go first, Ms. Fisher. What are you going to do about crime in South Fulton?
It's interesting when you say crime in South Fulton. I think when you look at what Chief Meadows has already done and the path that he is on, increasing the number of beats, increasing the amount of patrol in those areas that are higher crime areas, I think that's exactly the right approach. I applaud all of what he's done in that space. When you look at District 4, um, well, let me just also say before I go there that when I looked at the last set of stats, crime in the city of South Fulton year over year was down 28%. That I think that's a remarkable result. And so I think what Chief Meadows is doing should continue to be done. When you look at the crime that happens in District 4, there are some violent crime, but most of it is nuisance behavior, right? It's children behaving badly. It's adults riding four-wheelers up and down suburban streets. It's nuisance behavior. And I think if we can increase the presence of police here in District 4, we can more effectively address that nuisance behavior as well. Mr. Davis, I know you're speaking, but I think you're on mute.
Let me just have a follow-up to that. How do you actually address some of the issues to eliminate crime beyond, I understand that Chief Meadows and those are doing a good job. What are some of the solutions that you would bring to the table to, just do a better job of it? I think
Well,
that
when I think about the crime that's here in District 4, when I talk about that nuisance behavior, particularly children, I think that behavior exists because we don't give them much more to do. There are no community centers out here, and so if you have a child who wants to participate in some sort of youth program or a sport or a chess team or any of those things, as a parent, you actually have to get in your car and drive that child 30 minutes away. We need a community center right here in District 4 that provides programming for children, provides programming for seniors, and actually provides a space where we can actually have community meetings. Right, the way District 4 sits today, if you want a meeting across multiple communities, multiple subdivisions, multiple streets, you actually have to go someplace outside of District 4 because there is no facility here in District 4 for that kind of gathering, for that kind of fellowship. I think if there was one thing could do, that would be the thing.
Mr. Sebastian, want to go ahead and address that question?
Yes, I do agree. We all know what the infrastructure of District 4 is like. We don't have any public buildings here. If you want to have a meeting, you either have to seek out a school or you have to seek out, a church. And yes, we do have crimes that are nuisance. But again, I've already started some of these discussions. We have a police precinct right here in District 4. And that was the first thing that I lobbied my government for once the city stood up. Because when we were preparing the transition over to the new city, we knew that we needed to decentralize the police services and to bring them closer to the community. And we need to continue in that vein. We will continue to support our Chief Meadows. We'll continue to support Chief Meadows and the men and women of our police department. They have been doing an excellent job in standing up that department and getting things going. But we also need to invest in our park system here in District 4, right? District 4 has 3 parks and they're basically all dormant parks, right? There's no programming, there are no activities that take place in most of those parks. They're basically parks that people, go out and you maybe have some walks or do some picnics. But otherwise than that, there's no programming. So we need to invest in our parks. I've already started to have discussions even with folks at the state level, to say, is there a place here we can even find to do a bigger park, right? Something that the state can help us put in place and that can become a state park while we invest in those that we have. Because, like the Cedar Grove Park, it's pretty small, but also the area around it is small as well. Again, in terms of infrastructure, Police Station 6, which is at the corner of Cedar Grove and Cedar Grove Road, Cedar Grove Road and Rivertown Road, when that one was originally designed, our now mayor, Bill Edwards, he was the commissioner, and that building was actually designed to be a dual fire station with a room that was big enough for community meetings. For whatever reason, they cut the size of that fire station. And even in having some discussions the other day with the now fire chief, he talks about potentially expanding that building so that we can have more space in it that we can even use for community meetings. And again, if we provide more stuff for our kids, if we provide some education for more of our parents, a lot of the crimes that do happen in District 4 can be eliminated.
Beth, I want to stay with you because I got a question and I'm gonna let you go on this one first. I know, and I think most of us remember there was, I guess we call it a tornado that hit South Fulton. And there was a lot of trees and everything in the streets, and there was a lot of flooding because of drains and things like that. So one question that one of your constituents want to know is, what role do you think the city ought to play in making sure trees are trimmed in the right of way? And what would you do about the infrastructure as it relates to the city of South Fulton?
Well, the city does have a responsibility on the city streets to keep the trees trimmed, right? We do have, this is an old infrastructure. The runoff infrastructure here is older, right? And we need to make sure that we are lobbying at all levels of government, including county and also state and even the federal. You know, there's lots of talk of bringing federal monies down for infrastructure. And having had a relationship with some of the folks even in Washington, you know, in my own little way, I've already started my own lobbying to say, remember South Fulton when that infrastructure money comes down. So again, there's lots of work for us to be done here. We don't own, for example, the water infrastructure, right? But as a city and as a big city, we should be able to lobby with Atlanta to see to it that we get upgrades to that system. Because again, that system is old, right? And there might be, you know, breaks in it that could be harmful to us. You know, there could be bacteria getting into the system. We just don't know, right? But again, we have to love, we don't own the water infrastructure, but we're a city that is big enough and have enough customers that we should be lobbying Atlanta hard to make upgrades to the infrastructure. And even as we have, as we had developers coming and wanting to build in the city and in District 4, we should make sure they put some skin in the game by putting some money on the table to help put some of these infrastructure in place, right? Not just let them come and build. So for instance, with impact fees, I'm fully supportive of doing impact fees so that the developers can put money on the table and leave some money in place to make some of these infrastructure improvements that we need in our city.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Fisher?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Well, the question was, and I'm taking it, I guess, you know, a few months ago when we had all of that bad weather and a lot of trees was in the street and a lot of those tree limbs and whatever caused drainage to be backed up. So the question is, do you think the city has a responsibility in making sure that trees are trimmed in the right of way? And also, what do you think needs to be done as it relates to the infrastructure of the city of South Fulton?
Yeah, I believe that the city, the county, and the state may have multiple accountabilities with regard to maintaining right-of-ways, whether you're talking about streets and subdivisions or you're talking about something like South Fulton Parkway. So yes, I believe there is some municipal accountability there when it comes to maintaining the right-of-ways. I also think that, well, I'll keep going. I also think that our HOAs sometimes maybe have a struggle with keeping detention ponds and retention ponds clean and clear of debris. I think that's a big problem here in our community, and that is something that we need to address. I don't believe HOAs get enough support here, and I don't believe HOAs have enough guidance and direction from people who know how to maintain these spaces to do so effectively.
Okay. Let me take a question that someone has, and I'm just going to assume that this year we have District 2, where there's 2 candidates, and I also think that in District 6, there was 2 candidates. But in this particular race, District 4, we have 6 candidates that at least qualified. And sometimes people take that to interpret that nobody's happy with the incumbent. So one of the questions someone has is, what have you done in the last 4 years to try to work with the incumbent city council person? I'm gonna let you go first, Ms. Fisher.
Okay. I have done quite a bit. I'll just start there, and I'll say that at one point, the incumbent and I would sit down once a week to talk through what some of the challenges were and how we could address those challenges. And that's actually how I got to volunteer to help lead some conflict resolution or personality type assessments back early on when we were having challenges with the teams working together. When I look at all that I've done in the community since then, you've seen me at city council meetings pushing for responsible action on all matters, be they public safety, planning and zoning, the environment, all matters. You've seen me leading more than 24 forums like this, debates, meet and greets, town halls, helping to organize and execute on all of those things to make sure that our community stayed informed. I helped coordinate the very first mayoral forum that we had here in this city and the very first forum for District 4. I've also led and served on several citizen volunteer teams, including the City of South Fulton Economic Development Strategic Planning Committee, that was 2019, District 4 Economic Development Committee, that was 2017 through 2019, and Councilwoman Gilliard was the person who asked me to do that. Fulton County Juvenile Court Citizen Review Panel from 2018 till now. The committee to establish a credit union in South Fulton. We started that in 2018, and we are still moving strong in that way. And I'm also in my second term as president of my HOA, the Town Creek Neighborhood Association. In addition to that, I've spent a lot of time qualifying myself to make sure that I understood all levels of municipal government. I am a graduate of 3 of our citizen universities: Fulton County Citizens University, Fulton County Sheriff's Office Citizens Academy, and in 2020, I became a member of the very first class of South Fulton University here in our city of South Fulton.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Serac, I'm gonna let you answer that question, then I'm gonna come back maybe to both of you. So go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Well, listen, I have been working. Not only have I done a lot of forums, and I've also organized forums in our community. I've organized forums for the City Grove Community Association, of which I was the Director of Public Policy and Legislation, right? I was also one of the leaders who worked and actually elected one of our commissioners. And then I went to work for Fulton County as his chief of staff, so I could not only look after this city, but I could look after all 8 cities on the south side here. So I've been very close with things that happen not only in the city of South Fulton, but across District 4, right? In terms of working with the incumbent is a close friend of mine. She was a close friend of mine, right? And I worked with her as much as I was allowed to work with her, right? I used to be one of the people she would call and ask for advice. I would give her that advice to the best of my knowledge and work with her as closely as I could. The first economic development proposal that was done for the city, I led a volunteer group to do that. If we all remember the Amazon sweepstakes and even some of the news reports that came out of that the city of South Fulton was actually had a proposal in, it was me and a group of city of South Fulton residents who did that and took that to the government and say, hey, you may want to think about submitting this. Because what's the worst that could happen? We don't get Amazon, but people have eyes on us that know we're now open for business. Okay. I'm also a graduate of the Fulton County Citizens University and of the City of South Fulton Citizens University. And I'm a proud graduate of those two programs. I will continue to serve in this community, regardless of if I would win or not, because that's just what I do. And there are other things that I've mentioned before that I've done here in the community, not just preparing myself, but actually things that would help people and help individuals. I am probably the longest serving HOA member in this footprint, right? And I've also developed relationship with several of the HOA members around our area, and I've advised them accordingly as to things that they would need to do. As a matter of fact, I even think I have even advised Ms. Fisher on a couple of things, and she knows that. So I'm just here as a servant. Win or lose, I'll continue to do that, and I work to the best of my ability with the incumbent, and I will just continue. Whoever wants to work with JC Sebastian, my door is always open, and my phone number hasn't changed.
Let me just also say one thing, that talking isn't necessarily providing advice, and what you say isn't always useful, even if you provide it. So, no.
All right, let me go with this, because I have a few questions. I'm trying to combine some of them together. I mean, I know both of you, and I know both of your work in the city of South Fulton in the district. And based on that question, obviously you would not be running if you were completely satisfied with what the incumbent is doing. So one of the questions is, what would you offer? What would you do to move the city of South Fulton forward? And I think that's a primary concern of everybody. What do you do to move the city of South Fulton forward? And Sebastian, I'm gonna go with you first. I mean, people just want to know, I mean, how do you move the city of South Fulton forward? Tell us.
We have done some heavy lifting already. Brother Willie, we have really done some heavy lifting. Having to transition all those departments over and getting them stood up, that's some heavy lifting that we have done. So regardless of if some of the things have come out very negatively, we have still done some good work. We need to bring more business here. We need to expand our base of businesses so that we can take the tax burden off of the citizens. That should be priority number one, right? We need to protect certain areas of our city. We need to protect our environment, right? Having worked even for the United Nations Environment Program on an environment study years ago, I have some concerns as to the exposure that we have here in terms of natural disasters. So part of moving us forward is to make sure we not only develop the infrastructure, but make sure we prepare our families on how to even survive for a while to any natural disasters that may come. Because if you don't know how to protect yourself, you literally lose your life in a natural disaster. So again, and then part of the problem, people want to feel safe where they live. So while we've done some investment in the police and in the fire service, I think we still have some work to do there. We've built an foundation. When we were creating the city, again, we projected that we wanted to have a police force of about 350 men and women, right? And we are on our way, but we're not there yet. We have to save our men and women from working long 12-hour shifts. I've been told time and time again when I would speak to some of the men and women that their shifts are long, and sometimes something would happen at the end of their shift and they would have to stay on for another 3-4 hours, right? We cannot do that. We have to continue to invest in our police department. And by the way, some people, they say, in the post George Floyd era, they have term defunding the police. We're not really defunding our police in South Fulton, right? We want to make sure our men and women are prepared. But on the other hand, we have to look for ways to invest in other things that will keep our youths off of the street and out of mischief, right? We have to look for ways to make sure our police department are trained in a way that they can be engaging with our community without becoming a threat, right? I know the police department have this program going on right now where they're trying to humanize the police officers, and they're trying to humanize the citizens in terms of their engagement. And that's a step in the right direction. So we have to continue to invest in their training to make sure that when they encounter citizens, the background of their training will be as such that they would engage with citizens in the right way. And personally, I've had cause to deal with our police department just as a regular citizen, and I've been very pleased so far as to what is happening. Right. We also have to invest in our HOAs for the city of South Fulton. We have here over 450 HOAs in our city, and I have a plan. If you look at my website, I have a plan. I put the skeleton of a plan out there. I'm not going to put everything out, right? In which I'm going to suggest some things that can help our HOAs be better. Because if we can fix those HOAs and if we can get the HOAs up and running and supported, then it will take a certain level of burden off the city, and it will make our city better, cleaner, and more functioning. And it will reduce the cost of the government to try and manage some of the issues at the HOA level, right? So those are some of the few things. Financial wise, our last budget before we became a full city was $55 million. And we just published a budget of $125 million, which 91 million is the general fund, right? It means that we have the money here to do some of the things that we envisioned doing when we were becoming a city, right? And I was one of the people who stood up there and said to folks in all of these meetings, right? I was the one who stood in the line of fire to take the tough questions, right? Should we become a city? Do we have the money? And clearly the answer here is yes. So as we continue to invest some of those monies and to make sure at some point in time, we look at reducing some of the tax burden on the homeowners, because we must do that as well. We must find a way to reduce some of the burden off of homeowners from taxes.
Okay, Ms. Fitcher.
Thank you. I want to stay on the HOAs for just a second here. Like very often, when I think about economic development, I think economic development and economic empowerment go hand in hand. And very often this conversation gravitates to big stuff like national chains and hotels and that sort of thing. We completely overlook everyday services. And for those of you who live in subdivisions, you don't have to look beyond your HOA to see this gap. For instance, to my knowledge, there is not a single South Fulton-based property management company focused on HOAs. I'm not talking about apartments or condos or single home rental units. I'm talking about a property management company that can be hired by the HOA board to serve a community of owner-occupied single family homes. I've done some research in this space, and if you're a licensed agent, it only takes about 40 hours of coursework to get this license, and just under like $600. With a hurdle that low, I was wondering why we don't have more in our area. And it turns out the state of Georgia's Real Estate Commission has a 59-page long list of approved schools that offer these courses, schools as far away as Colorado, but there's not a single one offered south of Atlanta here in Fulton County. I think it's really hard for people to understand what's possible when they don't have access to full and complete information. But anyway, back on topic. Subdivisions spend the most money on three things: property management, landscaping, and pool maintenance. None of these industries have high barriers to industry, and yet we spend thousands of dollars on these services every day, money that doesn't circulate in our community. It gets sucked out of our community, and sometimes we get shoddy service to boot. If we focus on those things, those everyday things, we can build an internal economic engine that helps push us forward. The other thing I think we need to do is, when I look at services, particularly public works and fire, I think we need some scorecards, some Six Sigma scorecards all around readiness to serve, right? Do we have the proper equipment? Do we is the timing of our repairs in line with the stress breaks in the asphalt that lines our roads, that sort of thing. And finally, I think we need to be much more aggressive on protecting our borders, right? Having undesirable development in someone's backyard or right on the border between our city and the next one over, that has to stop. And we should be more aggressive in trying to claw some of that back. I think those three things would help move us forward.
All right, here's a question, I guess, and it also, I would assume that it certainly fits in the field of what do you do to move the city of South Fulton forward? Most people feel like they can always find, without looking, a warehouse, but I can't find any place that's a nice sit-down restaurant. What are you going to do about that, Ms. Fisher?
I think we have to identify which entities we want, and then we have to study them the same way. So when you're interviewing for a job, before you go to that interview, you study the company, right? You read their annual report. You read any recent press releases that they put out. You do everything to make sure you understand what that company wants and what that company is interested in, and then you package yourself. I think we have to take that approach. I don't think you take that approach in a vacuum, though, right? I think it's got to be a much more comprehensive plan around, if we're building a city center or if we're building a node in a district, what kind of services do we want in that node? And based on those services, what kind of establishment best fit that node? And so you've got to start there before you actually go out and start recruiting entities to occupy that space.
Okay, Mr. Beth?
We have one of the best economic development directors in the state of Georgia, Mr. Christopher Pike. Mr. Christopher Pike will become my best friend because District 4 needs some development. Yes, we have some warehouses that have been in some unfortunate area within our boundaries, but the reality is we cannot stop other cities from putting things in their cities, right? We have no control over that. What we do have control over is how we talk and how we engage with our colleagues across cities, right? And my intention is to reach across these boundaries and to have some conversations on how we can do development that will benefit both all of the cities around us. District 4 touches 4 cities: Chattahoochee Hills, Palmetto, Union City, Fairburn, and it also touches 3 other districts in the city of South Fulton: District 2, District 3, and District 7. It is very important that you have working relationships across cities and even at higher level of government. And that's what I bring to the table. For District 4 itself, I will not be supporting any heavy industry or any warehouse development, and I would not be putting anything anywhere. We still have farmlands, we still have areas in which people want to have open property and open space and not just HOA built. And so my intent is to work with this community to figure out what they want and where they want to put them. Look, I had to take my wife for a delayed birthday dinner last night, and I had to drive 38 minutes away from home, and I was not happy. I looked at least for about half an hour to find a good restaurant that was open on a Monday night that we could sit down and have a proper dinner. I want to change that. And I hear that all the time from citizens as I go about and engage with citizens here. We need more healthcare. We need more healthcare options. Those are things that we can work together instead of having warehouses continue to populate South Fulton Parkway, especially.
Something I want to say here, right? There was a statement made here about collaborating and partnering, or working together with the cities around us. And let's just be clear: the only city that is violating our border is Union City. It's my understanding that those conversations have been had for 4 years. There was another statement made that, and nothing has resulted, right? We've gotten more warehouses. There was another statement made that there is nothing we can do about this. I challenged that one as well. Just last week, the city of Beaufort, facing very similar issues with its neighboring cities, have begun the process of suing those cities so that they don't become they don't have all of this undesirable development on their borders. There are things we can do besides talk, and we've not yet chosen to do them. At least that if we have, it's not public. Um, I want to make sure we take every tool in the toolkit and utilize it. Talking is just one of them. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I can rebut here, because
Sure.
it's not what you do, it's how you do things. Okay. And I guarantee you, if you don't develop relationship, and if all you're thinking about is,
I never said don't develop
Hold
relationships.
up. Let me. I mean, I'm want to be respectful. Both
Very
of y'all.
fair. Very fair.
Okay.
I'm not going to get into this kind of back and forth behavior. We have enough of that in council. Let's just be respectful. I want to try and develop the relationships, not only across the city of South Fulton and District 4, but across the region. Help folks to come up with plans and think through plans that can help us as a region. Yes, Union City have been the chief culprit, but as I mentioned, we have other cities that are touching our borders, and we have needs and we have lands that abut those cities. And so even if you say Union City is a lost case, right? There should be absolutely no reason why we should not be talking to the other cities around and to make these partnerships and make these relationships, right? If you don't go to the table with at least starting a conversation, you can't force people to do things when they have the power, because that's part of the reason why I believe we may not have gotten much result out of what is happening. It's not what you do, but it's how you do it and how you approach people.
So if I am to hear what you're saying, essentially what you're saying is the powers that be didn't know how to talk with Union City.
You're putting words in my mouth, Ms. Fisher.
Just as you put words in my mouth. Let me also say one more thing. Being respectful also means being honest and not deceitful. And so let's remember that too.
Oh, absolutely.
Hold up. So let me say this, because let me throw out something that I've talked to other people about, and I see and I've heard. Both of you know that I'm the wrong person to be trying to do this, because I'm much aware of what takes place in the city of South Fulton. So I'm not saying I'm not neutral, but I do know some of the community stuff. So let me throw out something. Let me throw out something. Let me make, I'll try to hold back. Let me throw out a personal thing. I think one of the problems, and I think both of you have talked about working relationships, not just on council, but also in the surrounding municipalities. And what I hear a lot of, which is not a benefit to the city of South Fulton, is that I very seldom hear a candidate or an incumbent talk about the city of South Fulton. What I hear is District 3, District 4, District 5, District 6. I don't hear, this is what we need to make ourselves a better city. What I hear a lot of, this is what we need to do to make District 2 better. This is what we need to do the different 4. I even heard we had a forum and somebody said, well, what have you done to reduce crime in District 2? I mean, what difference does that make if you can ride across the street and be in District 1? So here's something. Would either one of you be in support of a change where instead of having 7 districts, that if we had 4 districts and maybe 3 at large, to ensure that the interests of all citizens of South Fulton are taken into consideration? Mr. Bath, I'm gonna go with you first on that.
Thank you. That's a hypothetical question, and that is something that I would love to study in more detail. But I think the premise of the question is really along the lines of not really focusing on a district, but focusing on the city.
Correct.
What I've said to people, I never fought to create a district. I fought to create the city of South Fulton. I worked all across this city when we were trying to incorporate. As a matter of fact, I even told my team that I adopted Old National until at one point I went to vote in one of the elections locally, and the clerk at the counter said to me, how come you're voting here? Don't you live in Old National? Because I was over there that often, right? I actually like the Old National neighborhood. There's a difference in culture. There's a difference in feel than the quietness of Cedar Grove. I love District 1. There's nice restaurants going on over there. I've spent a lot of time in District 2, even in District 3. So for me, it's about our city. It's not specifically about a district. And while I hear the question about maybe even changing the charter to reflect, some at-large seat, I think that issue is a little bit premature, because we have to remember that we are only 4.5 years old, right? We have not had people before who have gone through this, and we have not had a lot of experienced people in terms of city government before. Not even our current mayor. He had experience as a commissioner. So I think we need to give ourselves a chance and an opportunity as we push for cityhood to, if it's not working, to elect the right people and to have education and forums like these and look at people's background and their history and their trustworthiness and what they've really done within their community, so that you can know if they are the right candidates and if they're really for the city, or if they're just coming in with an idea that I'm going to create a little kingdom and I'm going to rule it, right? So though I appreciate the question, I think it's a little bit premature, but to your point, anything that would help us work better as a government, I'll be willing to entertain and support.
Ms. Fisher.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the question. And I actually recall facilitating a community conversation where this idea came up. And I don't know if that was the first time or if it was, a subsequent time. But having said that, I like the idea. And I like the idea for a few reasons. The first one is, when you look at how we operate today, if you have a council person who is responsive and representative of your community, then you have access to timely and accurate information. Your issues get addressed. The development development needs that you want get accomplished. If you don't, then nothing happens. And you can lean into those other council people and they may help you, right? Council people from other districts help me all the time when we're trying to figure out issues here. But that is out of their goodwill. They're not required to do so. If we move to a model that has people who are specific to districts and then people who are at large, and maybe we tie them to some territory that is broader than a district, then every citizen in this community has at least two representatives that they can reach out to for assistance and support. And you have more than just the mayor looking at the whole entire city from a responsibility perspective. And so, yes, I like the idea.
Okay. And what I'm going to do, because I think we have just a few more minutes and I still have a lot of questions. So what I'm going to do, we had about 5 minutes, and I'm sorry I couldn't get to all of the questions, but I'm going to allow each candidate to make a brief closing statement and then provide any information as to how people can get in contact with your campaign. But let me say this before I go. There are two other candidates, Mel Kenton and I think Anna Jenner, who I sent the link, just like I think everybody that's on here, it went out the same. So I don't know what happened. I sent it to the email that you provided, that they provided me to. So I don't want to think that anything was set that they didn't participate, but email was sent out to, well, the link for the panel was sent out to the email that they were provided to me. And I also asked each candidate to make sure that they receive it and get back with me. So in all honesty, I mean, I didn't hear anything back. So I'm sorry we didn't get to hear for those other two candidates. So it wasn't anything that we deliberately didn't do, but I try to get the information out, and this is something that each candidate that is participating know that I've contacted them weeks ago. So I guess, only thing I can say, it's important to get back in a timely fashion where we don't have these type of problems. So I'm sorry y'all were not able to participate. I wish that I had heard something earlier, but at this time I will let Ms. Fisher give a closing statement, tell how you can reach her campaign.
Thank you. Again, thank you everyone for your time and attention this evening. I will repeat that within 2 months of moving here, I was invited to join the board of the Cedar Grove Community Association. That is because there was a persistent and pervasive lack of leadership here in District 4. I accepted that assignment and I have remained engaged ever since, advocating for our community. I even joined the canvassing team in May of 2016 for the cityhood effort, canvassed from September to October. I've spent countless hours discussing matters of importance with existing councilpersons, department heads, safety personnel, city and county retirees, county commissioners, local business owners, and of course, residents. I've listened. I hear what you're saying. It's time for more. You're tired of experiencing the failures of leadership every single day. We need better and closer healthcare options, like a standalone emergency room. We need a community center, as I said earlier, so I won't go through that again. We need to make a more aggressive stance on all of the undesirable development in our borders and in our backyards. We want smart, balanced growth that doesn't place a burden on our city's ability to effectively provide services, including public safety, public works, and in partnership with Fulton County Schools, public education. I'm ready to be your voice, to work for you, and improve District 4's livability score. My name is Elise Fisher, and I'm asking for your vote. Vote Fisher for 4. Thank you.
I was the first candidate to declare. I was the first candidate to launch a website. And the reason why I wanted to get out early, Mr. Chair, is because for 5 or more years, many citizens of District 4 have been asking for me to be their council person. Some people have even jokingly, started calling me the de facto council person. It's about responsibility. It's about service. I have a level of responsibility. I have a commitment to the people here that way before 2016, I've been working here in this community. As I said, when I fought for creating the city of South Fulton, I didn't fight to create a district. Yes, we need development. Yes, we need more infrastructure. Yes, we need the community centers. We don't differ on a lot of that. But what we need are people with a history of working here and getting things done in this community. JC for 4, that's my campaign website, jcfor4.com. It's been out there since February this year. And I want you to take a look at it and take a look at some of the things that I didn't even get to touch on here tonight that has been out there. I'm a servant of the people. I'm committed to this area. I'm not going to get up and take public office because it's pretty, it looks good, or I'm friends with, council members or whatever not. I'm here to work for the people of the city of South Fulton, right? And I want you to remember that when you punch that button, early voting starts October 12th or on November 2nd, you're selecting a leader in me that have had a history of bringing groups together here in this community. I've just recently received an Everyday Hero Award from the Market Research Education Foundation. The people who awarded me that honor, they don't even live in our district, but they have been following my social media for years. They have gone back to things that I've done in New York and even in Antigua. They troll me that much. And so they have been able to recognize from the outside my contribution to this community. I believe I am the most qualified. I believe I'm the one that can pull this community and help to pull this city together, because guess what? I've done it before. When we created, after we voted for the city of South Fulton, we had over 800 people in groups visioning and creating documents and professional papers as to what they want to see for their city. And guess what? I was one of the leaders who helped to coordinate all that. So I believe I am ready. I believe the time is now. So on November 2nd, early voting starting October 12th, I am asking for your vote to help not only move District 4, but the entire city of South Fulton forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just make a couple of things. One of the things that I appreciate both candidates taking the opportunity to talk and for people to hear their vision for the city of South Fulton. I'm very sorry that we didn't get to hear from the other two candidates, but I know Brother Boshless. So what I want to do is, they don't throw me out the fraternity. Since I'm chairing the Political Action Committee, I'm going to redo, I'm going to plan something for this Thursday night, try to free up my schedule. And for those two candidates that were not able to participate, I will be reaching out to you, and I will schedule an opportunity for both of you to do this on this Thursday night at 7 o'clock if you're available. And that's the only time that I think I can have to do that, but I think it's important for the citizens of South Fulton to hear from you. So I will have something for those two that did get back, and, not to call anybody out, but I never heard any respond back to the incumbent. I guess that's why a lot of people are running. So let me just update. I will do that, and I'll reach out to both of you that we can schedule something for this Thursday to allow you both to speak. And also that we have a couple of more forums that we have scheduled next week. I like to call it the City of East Point Week, because part of our service area is the city of South Fulton and East Point. So next week, we will be having what I call East Point Week. A week from today, we will have those running for the city of East Point in wards A and B, where they will have Tuesday night, and those who are running in wards C and D, that they will be doing on Thursday night. And 2 weeks from the night, I want to say, I guess they say the best for last, that we will have the candidates that are running for mayor of the city of South Fulton. So put that down. That's October the 5th. And at this point, I have sent invitation to all 4 candidates. I've got confirmation from 2, and that's the way we're going to do it. But 2 weeks from tonight, we will have the candidates that are running for the mayor of South Fulton. And what we would do, I know people have a lot more questions, and not to take away from any of these candidates, we're going to let that be 2 hours. Okay? So thank everybody for participating, and we'll make sure that we get information out, and I'll be reaching out to the other 2 candidates so we can do something for everybody. Those that know me, I believe that education is the important thing, and not just name recognition to go vote a name, but know who you're voting for. Thank you. Everybody have a good evening, and most of all, stay safe.
Thank you. God bless.